Hello, welcome. Josh here. We're here for episode 2 of Review Rewind. As you know from, if you watched last episode, you know the Burbs was the same episode. Got my Burbs shirt. Love this movie. So good. Joe Dante is brilliant. The Burbs is today's topic of discussion. As I've said, top 5 favorite movie for me, at least top 10. Definitely up there. It was a box office bomb, but I believe it's become a cult favorite. Was it Shout Factory that released this again? Or Arrow? I think it's Shout Factory re-released this. I need to get that one because it looks really cool. There's a cool cover. Probably has a lot of cool behind the scenes. This one just has the alternate ending. Well, endings. There's a few alternate endings. But yeah. The Burbs, released February 17th, 1989, which was the year after I was born. The budget was $18 million and only made $49. So that is not a good percentage if you're trying to make money. But yeah, love a good murder mystery, and technically no one, well, I don't want to give too much away, but it's a good mystery anyway. And directed by Joe Dante, who's a genius. A lot of people overlook him when they're talking about best directors of all time. Mostly because a bunch of his films did not make a lot of box office, much like John Carpenter. But yeah, The Burbs is great. He did a bunch of other good ones. Gremlins, The Howling, love that movie. Small Soldiers, the whole, which nobody saw, or whole 3D, however you saw it. The whole, that was a great movie. What else? Inner Space, I could talk about Joe. Oh, he also did a segment for the Twilight Zone movie, which is over there behind me, with Steven Spielberg. We should talk about the cast in this movie, because great cast. Tom Hanks, of course, as Ray Peterson. Then you have Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia. She will always be Princess Leia to me. R.I.P. Carrie Fisher. But she's great in this movie as Carol, Ray's wife. Then you have Bruce Dern, who plays Rumsfeld, the military neighbor to Ray. And you have Corey Feldman, who's a neighbor. His parents are gone, so he invites a bunch of friends over. He's supposed to be painting the house, but he mainly parties the entire time. Great cast. Oh, I should mention Bruce Dern is one of the few people to work with Alfred Hitchcock. He worked with him with 2 movies, I believe. Let's see if I can remember them. Marnie and Family Plot. I believe I nailed that. I didn't even look it up. But yeah, that's a cool fact. Bruce Dern worked with Hitchcock and Joe Dante. So, alright. We talked about last week how 101 Dalmatians had a cool opening sequence. This movie also has a cool opening sequence. You start with the Universal logo, then it goes to Earth, then it keeps zooming in until you get in the suburbs where their house is. Great. And then it introduces all of the characters who will be in the movie. How Joe Dante did that is great. You see each character and kind of get a sense of how they are as people. It goes, all the way around. They could do that because it was shot on the Universal backlot, where Gremlins, Back to the Future were both shot as well. Actually did a tour once, got to see that. It's in Hollywood, so that was cool. Shot on the Universal backlot, so if you ever do that tour, keep an eye out for the Burbs. Filming locations. Okay, the premise is the Klopeks, who are the new neighbors. Nobody trusts them. They do a bunch of shady stuff, like digging at night and stuff. And then Walter goes missing. He was the old guy. He goes missing. Yeah. So the whole premise is Ray, Art, and Rumsfeld all get together because they think that the Klopeks have killed or kidnapped Walter. So they go on this whole thing of stakeouts and watching them at night. In fact, the garbage sequence, when one of the Klopeks comes out in his car, backs up, puts the trash in, and pounds it with like a stick, and keeps pounding it. That's a funny sequence. And then Ray's dream sequence, when he's being over that giant grill, and the ice cream guy, I forget his name. Art tells him a story about him, how he killed his whole family and was an ice cream man. And eventually the smell was so bad that they investigated. Anyway, so that whole dream sequence is really cool. Then he wakes up to Mr. Rogers, which is great. I grew up on Mr. Rogers, but how he went from a horror dream to Mr. Rogers was a great transition to me. Then they go over and meet the Klopeks, the two wives, Ray's wife and Rumsfeld's wife, want them to go meet the Klopeks. So they go over and introduce themselves, and they bring out sardines and pretzels for them to eat. There's this great shot where he's just staring at Ray the whole time, and he's trying to eat it, and he doesn't. But yeah, that whole sequence is great. And then, of course, you have them. He's told Carol he's going to golf all day, but he's not. They're really doing a stakeout, watching the Klopeks, because they know they've gone away. So it's their chance to go in the backyard and look for clues, which they do the whole time. Eventually, after 10 or so different holes of digging. They eventually break in the house and go down into the basement because they think they're cremating the bodies down there. And anyway, they keep going and they hit a gas line. They don't find any bones or bodies or anything. So the house explodes and everybody thinks Ray's dead. Then of course he comes shuffling out with this great score. And you think the movie's, oh, well, that's over. And then, of course, the Klopeks come back, and he thinks he's falsely accused the Klopeks of murdering somebody, because then Walter comes back, and the Klopeks come back, and Ray says he's going to pay for all the damage, and he tells Art to shut up, and you think that's how it's going to end, but then they put him in the ambulance, and two of the Klopeks are in there with him, and he asks him how he knew their secret, and he still thinks they're innocent. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. But then they try and take him out with a needle, and there's a cool sequence, and eventually they end up flying out the ambulance, hit the car, opens of course, and you see all the bones in there. Great, that ending sequence is just great. So yeah, that is The Burbs. Great movie, very underrated in my opinion. It was a box office bomb when it came out. Of course, so was Dragnet, which was another great 90s Tom Hanks movie. Even though this was 89, I would consider it 90s. But yeah, Burbs. Tell me what you think about this movie. I really enjoy it, as I do with most Joe Dante movies. But yeah, good little mystery comedy. Great movie. Alright, so next week we will be taking a look at The Haunted Mansion, another very underrated movie based on my favorite attraction of all time, starring Eddie Murphy. We will get to that next week. Until then, go watch a movie so we can review it next week. Bye.